good morning. I hope that everybody is well and that you've had a good week. Hands Across the Sea Samplers has had a very productive week. There's been lots going on, both in the UK and in Australia. And the display of samplers here today, there's so many of them I couldn't fit them all in, and me. All of these samplers that you see here have been reproduced by Sandra. This one has been stitched by her, but the rest of them have been stitched by model stitchers in the UK, in Australia and in the United States. So that's our background today, is Australian, well, no, I can't say Australian samplers, but samplers that have been reproduced or stitched in Australia. Now this week, Hands Across the Sea Samplers had a new release, and it was an original design by Sandra, and Sandra stitched the little design as well. And I haven't got it here, it hasn't left Australia, so I'm going to insert some photographs into this video. The little design is called Spring Violets, and it's actually designed as a sampler, but we decided to have it finished into a pin cushion, and we were very grateful to Leona Sweeney for finishing the little pin cushion, and she did a wonderful job. There's some really nice details on the finishing of the pin cushion. Now, available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website is the PDF download for this little sampler, and it's a little gem. It's all cross stitch over 2 threads, and you can stitch this on Aida, Lin-Aida or linen. And you don't need to finish it into a small, it will stand as a sampler to be framed. That was what it was originally designed for, and I've done a little mock-up of the design so you can see what it looks like if you were to frame it as a sampler. The design uses 16 colours, and it was stitched with DMC. Sandra stitched this at a time when it was very, very difficult to get silks to her in Australia, so she pulled the colours from her stash, and she's very lucky because she has a very extensive stash of DMC. It's 147 stitches by 103 stitches, so it's a landscape design. If you stitched Spring Violets on 14 count Aida, which is 28 count linen, it would be 10.5 by 7.36. If you stitched it on 20 count Aida, which is 40 count linen, which is what Sandra stitched it on, it would be 7.35 by 5.15. It's a delightful little sampler, and violets, they mean so much to so many of us. Sandra actually dedicated this little design to my grandmother, Violet Annie Thompson was her maiden name, Parkman was her married name, and I was named after my grandmother. My middle name is Violetta, and my birth month is February, and violets are the birth flower for February. So we wanted to release it now so that you would have time to kit it up, so this could be your February project. When we released it on social media a few days ago, I was really touched to see how many people commented that violets were their grandmother's favourite flower. That was a comment that we saw time and time again. We have a lot of violets growing wild in our garden, and I love the scent of violets. You know, they're so tiny and delicate, but they're such a beautiful beautiful flower, and I do think that Sandra has captured the violet so beautifully in her design. It's available for PDF download. So many of you have downloaded her already, and we just want to say thank you to everybody. Okay, so Australia was our theme for today. A few of these samplers, well, 2 of them have already been released, but the rest of these samplers are samplers that we hope to release through 2021. I keep on getting emails from people saying, when are you releasing this sampler where we showed a sneak peek? I'm going as fast as I can. Okay, this week I managed to get back from my friends just before the workshop closed completely. They've decided now that obviously the storefront to the framers had to close when we went into lockdown, but their workshop was still going, but now they've had to stop. So I managed to get Anne Morley back, and I was so thrilled how this little sampler turned out. The colours in this sampler are beautiful and they're different. I'll release this one soon, very soon. Talking about colours and different colours, I wanted to talk about Hermes Soie. I had a message in the week asking me, why do I like Hermes Soie? Well, stitching is something that's intuitive, and sometimes it's very hard to put into words how something feels to you. The feel of silk in my hand, and as I stitch with silk, there's something about that action and pulling the silk through your fabric. It feeds my soul, and I can't find the right words to say why I love stitching with Hermes Soie so much. But really, it's about the way it feels, about the quality of the silk. And to be quite honest, I would prefer to go without something else in my life to be able to buy the silks to stitch with. When I say that, I'm not decrying cotton threads or any other type of threads. We all stitch with what we want to stitch with and what we enjoy stitching with. But the question to me was, why did I enjoy Hermes Soie silks so much? Now, in the last few years, I have discovered Hermes Soie 103, which are the silks that come on the spools. And these silks, they just blow my mind when I stitch with them. They are a very robust silk, but the sheen on these silks are just absolutely amazing, and to stitch with them, it's an absolute joy. I like to use these silks on 46 count upwards, but there are lots of stitchers that will use these on 40 count or 37 count. There is no right or wrong. It's what suits your eye and feels right in your hand. Now, you'll probably notice that these colours actually match the scarf that I'm wearing. Hermes Soie's range of 103 silks are fashion silks. These silks are produced for the fashion industry, the haute couture fashion houses. Just for example, Hermes, Christian Dior, Givenchy, they use 103 silks. And the reason they use them is because they are the finest quality silks that are available to them. And I was talking to a friend in the week, and she was saying that, you know, when she has visited Hermes Scarves store in Paris, she was fortunate to spend quite some time there, and while she was there were people continually coming in from the fashion houses, from their workshops, saying, have you got this, have you got that? Now, these colours were dyed for Hermes, and I'm very lucky that my husband, knowing how much I adore silks and patterns and colours and Hermes scarves, bought me this scarf. I'm blessed that this is a Hermes scarf, and it's a very precious scarf. I only wear this one on special occasions. I've been finding out a little bit more about the colours that are in the 103 range. There are some really, really amazing colours in 103. Where I have been reproducing samplers in 103, I've been going to my selection of 103 colours and pulling them as I've been charting. And then when I've gone to write the little PDFs or booklets for the designs, I have found it's very, very difficult to actually get comparable colours in DMC, and even in the Soie d'Alger range, which is very, very extensive. And it's because that many of these colours are dyed exclusively for the fashion houses. And as I understand it, twice a year there are new colours brought out that are caused by the haute couture collections. So if we take Hermes, for example, in February of this year, Hermes Soie would have dyed silks in 103 for Hermes that is due to come out for their fall 2022 collection. They dye those colours in February, and Access Commodities in the US actually have those colours in stock for this summer. So as embroiderers, we're really lucky that we get these new colours that are produced for Hermes this summer, when they will appear in their collection for fall 2022. Now, because the colours are fashion driven, these colours don't remain in production. So much is produced for that fashion collection, and we are fortunate enough as embroiderers to get some of those colours. What might be available this year, in 3 years' time, may not be available any longer. When those colours are sold out, no more might be made of that particular shade for several years. And that's one of the reasons why, with 103, it's a really good idea to try and build up your stash of colours, so that if a design comes out that uses a colour that is in short supply, or even a design that was released 2 years ago and you want to stitch it this year, that you have got that colour in your stash. Now, what I use to make sure that I have all the colours there available for me to use is on Access Commodities website, and you can go on their website. They have a download section, and they have these these are order forms for stores to order silks from Access Commodities. As a private individual, you can't buy the silks direct from Access Commodities. They are distributors. But what you can do is you can download these order forms which list all the colours available. And you can use this as sort of like a stock control of your stash. So on I've just printed this today, but on my actual working copy, I put little marks against each colour of how many I've got, and once I've used a spool, I knock it off so I know when I need to order more. There are stores that have like a collectors club for the Soie 103. The Attic Needleworks are one of those companies. You can subscribe to their monthly club and they will send you X number of colours per month to help you build up your stash of 103. But you know, you could also use these forms and work your way through ordering colours from various stores. They do list the new colours for 2020, and all of these colours in this list, they are new colours for 2020. No doubt, because the new colours are issued in February and they come through for the summer, later this year there will be an up-to-date thread list issued, and what they do is they show at the top when this thread list was compiled, and this one is September 2020. I spend so much time with my needle. My needlework is such a huge part of my life. I don't smoke, I don't drink. We live relatively simple lives here. These silks, they are my not guilty secret or guilty pleasure. They are my daily treat in life. And my needlework, it's so important to me. It's my sanity. It really, really is. Okay, so what else have I got to talk to you about? I've been doing some research on a sampler that's I've reproduced and is currently being stitched. And one of the reasons I bought the sampler was because of the name. The little girl's name on the sampler was Rose Ada Featherstone, and I thought Featherstone, that's such an interesting name. Let's have a little look about this little girl in family history records, and I found Rose Ada Featherstone in a census return. But I couldn't find her birth, and she was born at a time, and in fact I can tell you when she was born. She was born in 1882, when it was a legal requirement that every birth had to be registered, and I just couldn't work out why I couldn't find her birth. I went through, you know, painstakingly trying to find this little girl's birth, and I couldn't. But what I did find was a record of Rose leaving the UK and going to the US, and she went to the US with her husband, and her husband's surname was also Featherstone, and it was recorded that he was born in the same village as she was, in Yorkshire. Well, I couldn't find his birth either, and I thought, well, yeah, you know, cousins could marry a cousin, so, you know, it is possible that you could marry somebody who has the same surname as you. But this was a real mystery. So a little bit more research showed me that her mother's maiden name was Frances Maxwell, and she had a brother called Maxwell Featherstone. So I looked at Rose Ada Maxwell, and guess what? I found Rose's birth. So I applied for her birth certificate, and it was so sad. There's no father on the birth certificate. Francis had Rose out of wedlock. And that is sad, because in Victorian times that would really have affected your life. So anyway, I then applied for the marriage certificate of Frances Maxwell, and she married a Alfred Featherstone in July 1882, and Rose was born in the January 1882. So initially I wondered maybe Alfred might have been married, or maybe you know, he got divorced, although divorce in the working classes would have been very, very unusual. But no, Alfred was a bachelor when he married, and he was 5 years younger than Frances. So I don't think that Alfred was actually Rose's father, even though in the census return she had his surname of Featherstone. I then wanted to find out a little bit more about Frederick William Featherstone, who was Rose's husband when they travelled to the US. Well, it turned out that Frederick William Featherstone was actually Frederick William Hunt, and he was also known as William Hunt. And this all started to tie together, and I also found a descendant of Rose's, and we have been talking, they had a son. They never married, but they had a son who was called Herbert Hunt, and they must have come back to the UK from the US, even though there are no records, and there are extensive records of passengers travelling across the Atlantic. So I think that they must have used a different surname again. And why they used Featherstone instead of Hunt for Frederick when they went to the US, I don't know. It makes you wonder if he was sort of trying to escape something in the UK. And it's very unusual for people to go to the US and come back. You know, they wouldn't have gone, you know, for a holiday or to visit. They would have gone to emigrate. Anyway, Frederick was killed in the First World War, and there is a pension record for Frederick William Hunt's unmarried wife. That's how it's described, unmarried wife, Rose Ada Maxwell. Now, I can't find either a marriage or a death for Rose Ada Maxwell, so she must have started using a different name, and there isn't one for Rose Ada Hunt as well. So this little girl has turned out to be a real mystery. Obviously they had very little disregard for the law and about using correct names. But anyway, her sampler is delightful. It bursts with colour, and I can't wait to show you a sneak peek when the model stitcher has got a little bit further along. All of this makes this sampler so much more interesting for me. Now, another little quirky thing about a sampler is my project that I'm stitching this week. And here is the sampler. It's only a small sampler. I probably have to come to about here, and then it will be finished. And it's really lovely. I love the verse on this. Honour thy father and thy mother, that thy days may belong upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. I think that's so lovely. And I must admit that it was the little girl's name that caught my eye. Her name is Minnie Standlake. I think that's a really distinctive name, and again, when I saw the name, I started to research her, and I found the little girl. Then I went back to the sampler and I read the description behind the sampler where it was for sale, and the description said that they thought that the original sampler had been doctored. So between the lovely name and the fact that this sampler had been doctored, I decided I would buy it because I was curious to see. And what they meant about the sampler being doctored is that somebody has taken a pen and they have attempted to colour in the faded threads on this sampler. Now, I totally agree. This sampler, somebody has taken a biro to and gone over the lettering that is not red. But I do believe that this sampler was originally stitched with red and a blue. And the reason I think that is that I have got my super duper extra strong magnifier out, and it is a really high magnification. I don't normally work under it, but when I really need super duper magnification, I put this little extra magnifier over my normal magnifier. And when you actually start to look at these threads, you can tell that it was originally dark blue because there are filaments in the threads that run underneath the faded colour, and there's no way that they could have been coloured by a biro without colouring the thread over it. I might not have explained that very well, but I am quite certain that the colours were originally a blue on this. So, and like, you know, the girl would not have stitched the sampler the same colour as the linen, you know. So that's why I chose to chart this using the red and the blue, but I will call it an adaptation rather than reproduction, but I am really quite certain that that was the colour it was originally stitched in. I'm really enjoying my smalls at the moment. I have another one lined up which I've started to chart, to stitch after this one is finished. Okay, I think that sort of rounds it up for this week. I can't think of anything else to say. Oh, lovely treat today. Woke up to find that the attic has released a new newsletter, and it is so many pages long, and there's lots of wonderful samplers to see and read about. And the Attic Needleworks have also issued a video this weekend, which I've quickly skimmed through this morning, but I'm going to settle down. When I get back from walking the dogs today, I'm going to settle down with the video and the newsletter and have some me time reading and watching all the lovely samplers that there are at the attic. I can't wait to get back to the attic. I think that's probably going to be one of my first trips when it's safe to fly across the Atlantic again. Okay, stay safe, stay well, and if God is kind, I'll be back next week. Bye-bye.